Ladies and gentlemen, it's a true privilege to be here, and if you allow me, I will do exactly what Craig did in his start of his speech. I will take a step back and think about why is it that the human beings right now are at a rather bad place in our lives. I didn't really want to have this speech ever. I was very, very concerned when I was young what had happened in the 30s in Europe. I spoke a lot to my grandparents on this, and I just could not really, I really love history. I read everything, and I went to grandfather and said, like, how could this happen? And he basically said, well, I'm sorry, people are a bit more stupid than one can expect, right? And Craig said this in a little bit of a different way, and I will start with the same thing, that we are right now in a situation where things are so good that they possibly cannot get better. And Craig has already touched on this, so forgive me for sort of repeating some of his remarks and some of his points, but we have done a little bit more work on this, and Craig mentioned that he's a trader to start with, and so am I. I started trading for a company called O'Connor, that you might know. We got bought by Swiss Bank, which now UBS a long time ago. So what we have done here, we have sort of taken and looked at data as long as they exist. If you look at the upper graph, that is the return on US government bonds. We have taken the sort of closest to the 10-year bond as you can get, because way back there were not that many issues, but the data is okay. And please take a look at that graph, right? Nothing happened. Being an investor was okay, right? But you didn't make a fortune. Look at the S&P. That is now from 1936. Again, that is as long as there is data for the S&P 100. What has happened in my career, I started trading options in 1997, is an extraordinary event. And I would like to argue that it's a blip. We have all also seen that this blip that sort of started in financial markets is now also wearing off into, actually feeding off into the real assets. It doesn't really matter if you look at, I took real estate here, I happen to like UBS since they bought our company a long time ago, but this is a pretty good study, right? Look at the overvaluations. Look at where Dennis, who I run through, but well, get back to that. We were born in Stockholm. Right? Stockholm is a one-horse town, too close to Russia. The climate is horrible. It is very expensive to go to a restaurant if you can find one, and it's still bizarrely expensive to live there. Why on earth? Right? And the only place that is sort of decently valued is Chicago. It seems to be a good spread, right? I spent a lot of time in Chicago, and that is where O'Connor coincidentally started. We were rather good at trading options, and this is still a very, very viable options market in Chicago, right? And that is pretty much the only place on the face of this planet where UBS can find value. And this study, ladies and gentlemen, is good. I mean, I'm not going to get into the details, right? They have done a fair amount of work on this, right? And I'm sorry, it would be okay maybe if you said, okay, but it's just stocks and bonds and other things that are cheap. May I mention one thing called art? Right? 20 years ago, there was nobody who was paying a lot of money for a living artist, right? Because it was not that smart, because a living artist can make more paintings, right, whatever it is. Or take Damien Hirst. We happen to have a house in Venice, so Damien there, he has a lovely exhibition in the Biennale. You see, I admire Damien Hirst. He's my age and he's made a lot more money than me. Is Damien Hirst an artist? Well, the jury to me is out. Because he doesn't make anything. He just comes up with a concept. Then he has a jeweler or a welder or a painter making his concepts, and then he sells them for £50 million each. I said again, £50 million. Because to me, £50 million is a lot of money, even if you say it fast. And Damien, or rather his workers in the shall we call it, in the vineyard, the ones that actually make things, they can make more. They can make a lot more. I was in Zurich last week, walking past the good old UBS office. It's actually around the corner there, it's EFG now. There is a jewelry store there. They sell these diamond skulls made by Damien Hirst. These are copies, so they actually cost just $1 million Swiss. I mean, rather cheap. Go get it. Anyway, what is happening here, right? We who are all sitting here, we have been extremely fortunate because we are the winners. We are the ones who've been reaping all the benefits of the massive globalization, the deregulation, the automation, and the transparency. Dennis and I happen to be from the country where both the options market and the stock market first went electronic. That is why O'Connor wanted to go there, that's why they hired me straight out of business school, which was a fantastic, a God-given gift to me. We were doing things that you read about in the papers 30 years ago. We were rather good at high-frequency trading in 1987, and we made a lot of money. We were so good that we shredded the boxes so our computers came in because we didn't want to see the competition to understand what we were buying. We sent teams out of California to sit close to the database makers. This is in August 1997, right? So that we could optimize our algorithms so we were faster than anybody. Okay? And we have used this to make a lot of money, and that is why markets have been rallying as much as they have. But now, I'm sorry to say, we are in a different space. It's the 30s again. And like I said, I didn't want to have that speech ever. I'm old enough to have been forced to be in the Swedish Armed Forces. I was an interrogator in the Swedish Navy when I was 19. I was a commander, just like James Bond, cool title. But my brief, what was that? To set up a prisoner of war camp on the island of Gotland and interrogate Russians. And unfortunately, that skill is now starting to be hip again, right? I mean, there was a long time when nobody wanted to interrogate us anywhere, but all of a sudden they're in vogue. So let's face the facts. We have we have nationalistic leaders all over the place now. In Russia, in the US, maybe not really the UK, but in the UK there's a different kind of mess going on. But it's the same kind of thing. One wants to be nationalist anyway, right? Countries that were sort of the hope of Europe. Poland. Poland is the only country in the so-called the Soviet sphere, right, that actually has a GMP that has done something last 20 years, right? But now again, they have a nationalistic government, right? Hungary is a basket case in a way, and also this is spreading in Asia. The Philippines, which is a democratic country as far as I saw also, right? They have chosen somebody to be the president who's a confessed murderer. Think about that. I mean, what's going on there? Well, it's Benito all over, right? All that kind of things going on. Right? If this is not enough, this is getting worse, right? We have nationalists in the Bundestag. I know that some of you are here, sort of, just like me, I have Jewish roots, right? And I don't like the idea of having nationalists or Nazis in the Bundestag. That rings a bit too close to what's going on in the 30s, right? And then, the last couple of weeks, we have seen that Spain has gone into a total tailspin as well. And, I would have to remember that Spain was actually it was a dictatorship, right? They were sort of garroting people in 1973, right? Not a good thing, right? Let's hope and pray that that is not happening again. If this was not enough, we have a real risk of nuclear war. I'm a trader by heart, so I always try and sort of think about probabilities, and I will make this a bit too nasty to sort of think about. But there's one nutter in the White House who is sort of a little bit like kids in the playground. They're trying to sort of who has the biggest missile, right? And the other nutter is of course North Korea. We expect nutters in North Korea, right? But in the White House not. But unfortunately we have two nutters playing with atomic missiles. Not good, right? Then of course we have Russia. In being Swedish, I mean, one has to think about that. A lot of people think that the basic conflict in Europe is between England and France, or France and Germany. That is nothing, right? The basic conflict in Europe is between Sweden and Russia. We were at war since Russia was founded until 1809, when Russia stole Finland from Sweden. Then Sweden sort of went into this very, very smart, I have to say, so-called neutral stance, right? But now we have exactly the same kind of stuff that was going on in the 70s. I was living in London when I was a kid. And the IRA, they were sort of blasting bombs pretty much every day. Right? It was a bit nasty walking around there, being 6 years old, and the bag was searched all the time. In Germany, you have the Rote Armee-Fraktionen, and you also have terrorists in Italy. Who were funding all these terrorists? Easy. The GRU, the Russians. What is happening now? Well, they're funding terrorists again. Remember that, right? But now they also have this wonderful thing that was actually invented. I'm a huge fan of the internet. Don't get me wrong. At O'Connor, we used to call it the ARPANET. I mean, major geek, right? But the internet is actually made for sort of conveying good research between research people. It's not really made for what is going on right now, banking and all this stuff. But, of course, as you have seen, it has also been used by the stinking Russians to influence elections. Okay? This is the political scene. Others, two speakers before me, have been touching on the fact that the tap has been turned off, or is about to be turned off this one, right? If you look at any asset prices, and I could bore you to death with the statistics, right? But please take a look at asset volatility after the advent of quantitative easing. Assets that used to be, I'm sorry, I'm an options trader, I cannot help myself, right? Things that were, let's call it 20-25% a year volatility assets, right? They're now 10. Everything has gone sort of to be, there's no swing anymore. Why? Because the big tap is on. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, everything is a monetary phenomenon, right? If there's too much cash going around, it's going to chase assets, and the price is going to go up to levels that are unprecedented and totally unsustainable, right? So, we could stop there and be scared. But let's sort of get the scare level up a little bit more, right? Then we think about valuations. Everybody, of course, cannot understand, I hope, why somebody is valuing a company that is a taxi company like Uber at $68.5 billion. Again, I said again, I mean, it is a lot of money. $68.5 billion. The family Tornado taxis, they started this thing in the 1674. That's what it's called, a taxi. It's sort of a well-known thing. I mean, in Sweden, you've been able to pay with a credit card with the taxes from now, and you've been able to order one with the internet since like 1992, right? So it's not exactly new either. But still, you have those variations. And a company like Amazon, good example, right? Don't get me wrong, I admire Jeff Bezos. He has built an absolute empire. But what happens, the founder and main shareholder goes out and says, sorry, shareholders, we're not going to have any positive cash flow for the foreseeable future, because now we're actually moving into bricks and mortar, and we're going to conquer Hollywood. Do you remember what happened to the Japanese when they were going to conquer Hollywood? That was when one made films like Black Rain, right? The Japanese were going to take over the world. That was sort of the height of the Japanese bubble. The Nikkei was 42,000. I don't know if you remember this. It is now 20,000, and that is a decade high. One more thing that's a bit scary, right, is that, as been touched upon as well, that there are negative yields. Can anybody, I'm asking the question to you. Can you understand, how can I consider lending money and getting repaid less than I lent? I mean, how does that work? Anybody? No? Well, then you're with me. I have no idea. So, let's look at what happens if you then try and invest in areas that are not like when we've been all making money and everything has been good, right, since, let's call it the 80s. But the 30s was actually not too bad for bonds. Because, as you might remember then from the history books, there was a major recession going on, and inflation was very low. So it was okay to own bonds. But one has to understand that when we started this thing, after the big crash in 1928, yields were like 5-6%. Here we're starting at extremely low levels in the US and even negative in some places, right? Bonds in the 70s, they were a bit trickier. I don't know if you were alive. I was alive. It was a bit rough, right, even to find gas for a car, because there were rationings and things like that going on. I lived in the UK, so it was a bit of a sort of Mad Max scenario all over the place, right? One had to fight for food and things. So bonds were distinctly not a good idea in a high inflation environment. And as Craig mentioned as well, inflation is actually picking up. Yields are not picking up, but inflation is picking up, which means that real yields, they're not just, before we talk about nominal yields, real yields are horrible, absolutely horrible all around the world. Right? Then comes stocks, these high-flying, fantastic things that always go up, right? Actually, Craig mentioned that, they don't always go up, in the UK it's going to be bad. Stocks were a distinctly bad idea in the 30s, right? As you can see, the decade lost and you had some real problems. And do remember that we started with a real crash in 1928, right? Yeah, nothing happened. 70s, the same thing. Well, stocks were sort of okay, real assets, and inflation is high, but it was not exactly a fantastic story to be invested in, right? And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I think that this is the kind of scenario we're going into. I mentioned all the reasons. Politics, the stop of the massive money machine, right, and valuations are ridiculous, right? So the question is, what shall we do then? Where shall we park our cash, or shall we try and make some money? Well, first of all, I think it is very, very important to try and disremember everything I have learned as a trader since 1987, right? Because old yardsticks are absolutely not going to work. Because it's a little bit of a new, nasty world that we're in, right? And something that I was taught by the O'Connor brothers and the floors in Chicago or the electronic markets here in Europe and in Asia, whatever, is that at the end of the day, all trades go to value, right? eBay is not worth $68 billion, I'm sorry. So, you know, one has to worry about what is the real value of the asset that you're actually buying, right? So, where should we go? I have been negative. Let's look at where we shall go. One has to concentrate. As has been told here by the two excellent speakers before me, we have to look at absolute returns that are good in a risk-adjusted form, right? We have to avoid these trades that everybody runs into. And asset management in the last 10 years has become absolutely bizarre. The question is not, can you make money? The question is, how much money have you got under management? So the idea is that if I have $5 trillion, I should get more. I mean, I don't know if you saw that, but BlackRock, they have inflows of $1.5 billion a day. Can you imagine that? $1.5 billion a day. That's a lot of money, right? And they're very good. I actually know them reasonably well. The founders there, you know, they were traders as well. They make extremely well for themselves. But you know, in private with wine, they also think that it's scared to get $1.5 billion a day. I assure you. Okay. One thing that was mentioned by Craig and also the speaker before me, Javier, is that you know banks, they don't do their business anymore. And I like it when there's a crisis. When Brazil really went into tailspin, I want to go into that, 2015, that's when I really started focusing on Peru, because I know how to make money when things are bad. And this is an obvious one, right? Craig said that, okay? Let's go for the obvious hole in the capital markets, created by banks being absolute wimps and overregulated, right? That is an interesting thing, right? And one last thing. We absolutely cannot stop brutally, resiliently, and forcefully automate everything that we can. Because lending, that is what we do, right? I'm sort of started a long spiel about the environment. We have to automate, because lending is a very, very people-intensive business. And even Brazil, where we happen to have the good fortune to have our business, we have now 110 people, which is kind of a lot. You know, we pay a highly skilled person, good business school, whatever, we pay them a whopping 3,000 reais a month, a little bit less than $1,000, right? But even that, one has to be very, very careful about having too high costs and whatever. So automation is key to actually continue making money. So let's now turn pages to Brazil. Dennis and I, we have known each other for the longest period of time. It's very hard to understand that Dennis there, he's a fine looking gentleman, he's actually older than me. I was 15 and he was 17. We were forced into the same senior secondary school in Stockholm as really socialist, right? So they only had one good school left, so that's why we wound up. And unfortunately, we were pretty good in school. So we went to a very good business school, and I became an options trader, then as a stockbroker, he did very well for himself. But, you know, we didn't really understand the beauty of lending. Look at these jobs. Why do you need to go to business school? Why do you need to be good at programming? Why do you need to trade options? No, you don't need to, because look at Brazil, right? These are the average interest rates. You can go into they have very good statistics there. Go into the central bank statistics, right? This is the average rate charged for banks, marked including secured real estate loans, right? And of course, they come down now a little bit. They're only 25.27%, horrible, right? Comes down that. And the interesting thing as well, I was talking about that, I like it when there's a crisis, right? The lower chart, that is bank lending in Brazil for non-financial companies. You probably all remember that 2015 was the real crisis in Brazil. The currency was going down 3% a month, and nobody wanted Brazil. Right? Then since then, the stock market has more than doubled, and the high has gone up like 40%-ish. But in our space, bank lending is still there. So just like Craig said in the UK, we go the middle row. We lend to the companies that need money. We lend to very good companies, and we charge them 3% nothing else. It's very good money, right? And we do exactly what the banks should be doing. Nothing advanced. We We have been very fortunate being able to attract extremely talented and extremely seasoned people in the crisis. For instance, we just hired the ex-credit officer of Safra Bank. As you probably know, Mr. Safra is not exactly easy to deal with, right? But this gentleman has been working right next to Safra for 20 years, right? That is the kind of caliber person that we have been fortunate enough to bring in, on top of automating all of the business, so we have not exploded the staff, and that is why we can continue to offer weekly liquidity. We have made between 14 and 16% per annum in euros and dollars. Everything is hedged back to the base currency, right? And we continue to lend to even better companies all the time, because the service is needed, the cash is needed, and the competition is highly. So, any questions?
There's got to be a number of questions after such a presentation. Fantastic, yeah. What area could we look at here?
I have a question. Maybe it's not linked directly to your presentation, but just when you said banks are not doing any businesses today. One of the reasons might be the disruptive businesses that is emerging, such as the neobanks, the crypto money. Do you have anything to say about this?
Well, first of all, crypto money, I think, is a fraud, but it's all for crooks. So that is the one for crooks.
But still, it's a reality. And the neobanks, they are just automizing the same services that used to be existing in the banking system before. So I believe that today the banks are not just stopping the businesses; they're just externalizing what they used to do through private equities or hedge funds, or more expertise is needed maybe in specific fields.
It's interesting. You see, since we operate in Brazil, it's offshore a country of 211 million people. Right? It's rather large, and they have a whopping 4 banks. So if you talk about an oligopoly, that is Brazil, right? And if you look at the Brazilian banks, I don't know if you've been studying their financials, they are absolutely the most profitable on the face of the planet. They're not charging at all for business, right? But they are interested in making large loans to large corporations. And then, of course, on top of that, they have problems since they have been lending to absolute crooks like JDS and Petrobras and whatever. But the core business for them is amazing. It's fantastic. Hats off, right? It's just that they want to lend in chunks, so let's call it $250, $300 million a piece, right? We are making reasonably large loans, but a good-sized credit line for us is a couple of $1 million. So we are operating, and it may sound strange, right? But we're even lending to listed companies. Companies that are on the Bovespa, they still have to come to us for financing. Why? First of all, the banks aren't interested. Then, just like Craig said, we can be a lot quicker. With the AI going down as it was in 2015, it was kind of a good thing to be an exporter in Brazil. Right? All of a sudden, it was not that smart to make knives and shoes and whatever in China. Production moved to Brazil, because they had a major currency advantage. Then our average time from the request until we extend the loan, we say no, is 6 weeks, right? Which is extremely quick compared to the banks, because the banks in Brazil, they're even more slow than European ones. The Brazilian legal system is totally based on the Portuguese one. We need a lot of apostilles and gold stamps, and we need to go to notaries for doing anything, right? So there's not just the advantage that we are willing to look at the loan, it's also that we actually will give an answer. It's not, of course, not always yes, we are rather strict, right? But we will give them an answer, yeah, you can get this loan so you can fulfill your order to IKEA or not, right? So that, I think, is the reason why there is a real gap worldwide in the capital markets. Then, of course, Brazil, we're going back here, right? Brazil is exceptional. I mean, the reason why rates are so high is that there is a massive savings deficit, right? And the average Brazilian saves a whopping 20 reais, so $7 a week for pension. Think about that. One of the largest countries in the world, right? They have no savings at all. Why? Because historically they've had very high inflation. So therefore, when you get your paycheck, you go out and buy stuff. Because I mean, that is, it could be that 10 years ago, right? If you didn't pay to buy food today, well, the food was like 50% more expensive tomorrow. So they really have sort of call it buy now type mentality. So that also ties into that's been asked before. It's like, how long is this opportunity? My take is that unless there is a massive international inflow to Brazil, this arbitrage, which it is, I mean, it is sort of an arbitrage, right? Is going to be that for the foreseeable future.
Any further questions? Because it's a very intriguing value proposition.
And just one last thing. There is a law in France that is going to be to be applicable about 2018. It's Law Macron, Article 167. It's about
it's
lending.
a good law, actually. I like it a lot. Very well done.
Okay. It says that companies might be lending to one to each other instead of going through banking system.
Right.
How would you deal with this kind of new businesses?
I would be extremely happy if there were more companies lending to each other, because then we would have so many demands. This is sort of what happened in Brazil way back, right? The market started right after the military dictatorship fell, because there was a huge demand for capital. And it was companies or big families, take the office, they started lending on an ad hoc basis. That's how Dennis and I started as well. We started lending on an ad hoc basis like 14 years ago, right? Because there is just massive demand for capital. So that is going on, and it's lovely. I think that in Europe there's sort of a sclerosis, right? It's always been, everyone was talking about this already in the 70s. I mean, there is sort of a stasis. People don't really think about new ideas, right? So, yes, that exists. I'm really happy to hear the French are going in that direction, because it's clearly needed that, where things are very sort of stuck. And we are all welcoming that kind of development. There was a question over there as well.
Yes, I was just wondering, presumably you lend in local currency.
Pardon?
Presumably you lend in local currency.
Absolutely massive. We do lend some. Some of our borrowers are big indeed. I mean, it's surprising to know the names, right? And they have operations in euros and dollars, predominantly in dollars. But the vast majority is in yes. And then we hedge the exposure very simply. Roll 1 month futures down in Sao Paulo. It's nothing advanced then.
I'd like to add something on this, and I think about your question there about a law, business to business. It's not that easy. So if you're running, whatever company you're running, say General Motors in the local market, they're not going to just hire 50 people to do credit evaluations, etc., etc., etc. So the only situation where I think your scenario sort of makes sense, and then I don't really care how many lawyers have decided that that's a good idea or not, but once you're out there in the field and trying to actually do the business, either it will be someone who's just financing their own products to sell them, which is an old classical concept that's been used for forever, or it's going to be some other way just trying to expand their own sort of footprint, to put hooks into their clients to charge them fees and other things. What we are trying to do now, the more in general sense, just for you to understand, is that we have a few different business models. The one basic business model is simply that we just have, let's say we have 1,000 or 1,500 files of companies that we do business with. So as we get to know these companies, we know them better than Goldman Sachs, Merrill and Morgan combined, so we know their strengths and weaknesses, and then we try to find new products to bring to them. Basically starting with working capital, and that's what the basic relationship we have with them. And then through them we get 20 or 40 different buyers of the products. We always try to make sure we get over-collateralized as much as possible. We have 150,000 companies basically that wants to have our product, so we can be very picky which one we play with. And we don't need to give them the whole line, so we have loan-to-value ratios are appealing. We can spoon feed them the line as we get going, and we can cut that off at any given time. The other part of our business is that we try to focus on the buyers. So we go to big, well-known companies, so any agreements and whatnot, and then they provide their key suppliers to us. So we will then if General Motors gives us a list of their 50 suppliers, we know that these are the suppliers they want to work with not only tomorrow, but years ahead. And they typically run their payments with maybe a 17-day payment routine, so a just-in-time delivery concept. So for us, that's an excellent segment. We understand that Brazil is far away from many of you. So we have another product, we put a insurance overlay on top of it, so that we all can say, well, you're actually investing in a product that have a global AA commercial insurance rating backing it up. So would you rather give money to, let's say, Siemens in Germany, or you will get 1.5% for a 10-year? Or would you try to capture a spread of maybe 10% when you still have Siemens as the one paying you and you have it backed by one of the largest commercial insurance companies? So that's sort of another product that we have positioned. And then we have a third segment, which has been very sort of crafty, developed through Jon and his team, which is basically we try to get in the middle of the payments between the merchants and their payments from Visa, Mastercard. So if you're running one of the big banks in Brazil, you love to get the number of consumers in, so you can cross-sell alternative products. You can charge them your average 120% annualized penalty fees as they're starting to run behind on the payments. So we're trying to get into a sort of an arbitrage, completed risk-free transaction when Visa, Mastercard has confirmed the payments to the merchants, and we basically just giving them the money 30, 45 days before.
And that is fully automated in our own ecosystem, as I like to say.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think that we are now the first ones actually been sticking to half an hour, so shall we stop there?
Is there anybody that really wants to get into a final question? Because this is a very compelling value proposition. And I think when people first hear the name Brazil, they think, but I think as it's been explained here, there's much more to look at. And there's a value proposition here that I think is something that may be of interest. Any further questions? No. Well, obviously,
a big hand then for Dennis Clemming as well, who will interrupt me. Thanks a lot.